On 4th, 6th of September 2023, the first African Climate Summit was held at the Kenyatta International Convention Center in Nairobi, Kenya. It was co-hosted by the African Union and the Government of Kenya, with the theme driving green growth and climate finance solutions for Africa and the world. Approximately 30,000 delegates participated, including 18 heads of state from Africa, the Secretary-General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, and the President of the European Union, Ursula von der Leyen. With discussions centered on climate action financing, the Green Growth Agenda for Africa, climate action, and economic development. At the summit, African leaders requested the following. A. Significant overhaul of the international financial system at the summit to make it easier to finance climate action. B. Fulfillment of developed countries' 14-year commitment to raise $100 billion annually for climate adaptation and mitigation. C. Creation of a carbon markets initiative to finance renewable energy infrastructure. D. Access to concessional loans. These points were consolidated into a position stance/paper tagged the Nairobi Declaration, which outlined Africa's position on key climate matters. It underscored its outlook and mandates around greenhouse gas emissions, climate action, sustainability, etc., and formed the reference point for future negotiations at upcoming meetings, including the G20 meeting slated for early September 2023, United Nations General Assembly slated for mid-September 2023, 28th Conference of Parties slated for November 2023, and the annual general meetings for key organizations like the World Bank, IMF, etc. The Nairobi Declaration consisted of 11 key points that highlight the unified stance of African states on climate action ahead of 28th Conference of Parties. These points are: 1. Commitment to the Paris Agreement. African states reaffirm their commitment to the goals and principles of the Paris Agreement, including limiting global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. 2. Enhanced climate ambition pledges to enhance climate ambitions and nationally determined contributions, NDCs, to align with more ambitious targets, reflecting the urgency of addressing climate change. 3. Climate finance, calls for increased climate finance, support, and investment to help African nations adapt to and mitigate the impacts of climate change, with a focus on vulnerable communities. 4. Technology transfer, emphasis on technology transfer and capacity building to facilitate the adoption of clean and sustainable technologies across the continent. 5. Adaptation and resilience, a commitment to building climate resilience and adaptive capacity in the face of climate-related challenges, such as droughts, floods, and extreme weather events. 6. Nature-based solutions, recognizes the importance of nature-based solutions, including reforestation, sustainable land management, and conservation, in climate mitigation and adaptation efforts. 7. Energy transition, a call to accelerate the transition to renewable and clean energy sources to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and promote energy access for all. 8. Youth and indigenous engagement, acknowledges the role of youth and indigenous communities in climate action and commits to their meaningful participation in decision-making processes. 9. Gender equality commits to gender-responsive climate policies and actions, recognizing the disproportionate impact of climate change on women and girls. 10. Education and awareness promotes climate education, public awareness, and capacity-building initiatives to empower citizens to take climate action. 11. Regional collaboration encourages regional collaboration and information sharing among African states to address common climate challenges and opportunities. This Nairobi Declaration forms a reference point for African countries to speak in a unitary voice on matters that have to do with the climate. It departs from the previous practice where African states had conflicting stance and views on the climate matters, making negotiations painful and difficult. Also at the summit, it was outlined that for Africa to meet its emission reduction targets as outlined in the Paris Agreement, it requires a substantial $2.8 trillion by 2030. Achieving this goal necessitates a tenfold increase in climate investments, equivalent to nearly 93% of the continent's current GDP. Additionally, African nations often pay up to 8 times more for financing from multilateral lending institutions compared to developed countries. This imbalance results in recurring debt crises, leaving little or no resources for climate action. During the summit, donor nations and multilateral organizations pledged approximately $26 billion for climate investments. Notable commitments included the United Arab Emirates' non-binding letter of intent for $4.5 billion toward clean energy and $450 million for carbon credits. Denmark also announced a $232 million pledge for the Green Climate Fund's second replenishment. The United Kingdom, United States, Canada, Finland, and Germany also pledged several financing and debt swaps for green projects. The Africa Development Bank committed $1 billion towards adaptation with a pledge to invest $25 billion in climate financing by 2025. Other commitments were made by the Bezos Earth Fund, $22.8 million, Climate Asset Management, $200 million, Mostar, $10 billion, and Camco, $100 million. The Africa Climate Summit was a significant event that made progress on several key issues, including building consensus on climate action priorities for Africa. However, there are still significant challenges to overcome. While the summit provided a platform for countries to come together and commit to acting on climate change, it will take a sustained effort to achieve the aspirations of the Nairobi Declaration and the Paris Agreement. The summit also highlighted the importance of accountability and transparency in pursuing a just and equitable transition, as well as the need for countries that have contributed the most to climate change to take a lead in financing and implementing climate action. The summit also highlighted that the benefits of climate action are shared equitably so that no one is left behind. As we reflect on the outcomes of the summit, we must ask ourselves, how can we ensure that the promises made in Nairobi become a reality? The success of future climate summits and, more importantly, the future of our planet, hinge on our ability to answer these questions and take decisive action. The first Africa Climate Summit has shown us what is possible when nations come together with a shared purpose. Now, it's time to turn those possibilities into realities and secure a sustainable future for all.